Hello and welcome to PT and Nutrition Education's e-learning platform. Today we are starting with the level 3 SMART targets and this will initiate your 8-week predictive program with your client. It's important that before we start, the level 3 SMART targets do differ from the level 2, so therefore it is important that you pay full attention to some of the differences that you make, and therefore just don't copy anything that you might have completed at level 2, given that there are both fitness and nutritional goals which you need to cover. Okay, so if we've never heard of SMART targets before, it's important to know that this is an acronym. So we break each letter down and we are going to explain what each one of these letters means and then how we can apply that to a SMART goal for your client. So if we look first of all at the letter S, this means specific. What we need to try to do here is to avoid generic statements such as to get fitter, to get a six-pack, something like this. You must state whether it is fat loss, muscle mass increase, aerobic fitness, flexibility, or strength gains that you're looking to achieve through the goal with your client. Okay, now we are going to give much more detailed examples, also incorrect examples, but it's important to know that the goals that you set must be very specific towards a certain goal that your client wants to achieve. The second letter is M, and this stands for measurable. So this means that the goal that we're setting must be objectively measurable as a result. So here we're talking about, for example, a reduction in body fat by 2 kilograms, an increase in squat 1 rep max by 10 kilograms. This is measurable and it's objective in that we can measure a 1 rep max squat objectively through the weight measurement on the bar. Achievable, this means that the goals must be within the realms of possibility. So we can't go saying to increase our 1 rep max squat by 100 kilos within 1 week's time, because of course this is just going to be beyond the realms of possibility and therefore unachievable. Not only is this going to have a negative impact on your client when they're unable to achieve it, but as well there could be potential causes of injury or anything along those lines if we set goals which are going to push your client a little bit too far. Realistic, here we've got to take into account external factors that may affect the success. So before we were talking about the client's barriers to participation, things like motivation, time constraints. So of course the goals that we set need to take those barriers into consideration, especially if it's family commitments or something where they can't be training more than 3 times a week, and therefore the fitness goals that we set must be realistic in order to achieve over a certain time frame. And that leads us nicely into the last one, which is time bound. So here we have to make sure that there is a timescale with start and end dates to accompany the goal so that the client has a definitive deadline. So this is just to make sure that the goal is time constrained and that there is a end target for the client to actually work towards. This can increase motivation, maybe encourage harder work during that particular time frame. If we didn't have an end target and we didn't have an end goal deadline, then of course that might reduce motivation and not actually provide any kind of stimulus for the client to work towards an end goal. So now that we've been through each one of the letters of the acronym and we understand what each one means, we now have to combine all of that knowledge and put that into a SMART target in a sentence format so that your client can follow this and that you can achieve the marks needed in your LAP. So what we're going to do now over the next couple of slides, we're going to provide you with some examples of poor SMART targets and ones which won't meet the grade when it comes to the marks in your LAP. And then of course we're going to give you some positive examples which hopefully might give you some ideas in order to correctly write out your SMART targets for your client and their respective goals. Given that this is probably one of the areas of the LAP where students in the past have made the most mistakes and therefore had to make changes to their LAP, we thought it might be a good idea to give you a range of bad examples so that you don't put anything of the same standard in your learner achievement portfolio. So if we just have a look here at some short, medium and long-term goals, examples of which wouldn't make the grade and therefore would need to be reattempted if these were submitted as part of the LAP for Unit 2. If we look at the short goal here, we've got to start eating healthier food. You can see quite clearly there that doesn't specifically say what that actually means. What is healthier food? Again, the general definition of healthy can be interpreted in many different ways. So again, we can't essentially measure whether or not this food is healthy or not. How much food are we going to eat? For how long are we going to do this? Is there an end point? You can see that this target here is quite clearly not smart. Second one there is to make sure you get a good night's sleep after training. Again, a good night's sleep could be 7 hours, it could be 9 hours, depending on the individual. A good night's sleep, does that mean not waking up? Does that mean sleeping all the way through? Again, a good night's sleep has a interchangeable definition, and therefore is not a smart target. When it comes to the medium goals here, we've got to lose some weight by the end of the training program. Again, some weight is not specific. What mass are we trying to lose? Are we trying to lose fat mass, or are we trying to lose muscle mass? Of course, it's probably going to be fat mass, but again, this isn't stated and therefore it isn't specific. The end of the training program, how long is this training program going to last? Is it 6 weeks? Is it 12 weeks? Is it a year? Is it 4 years? And again, we can see here that there is no time bound. We can't say whether or not this is realistic, and we also certainly can't measure some weight. The second one here is to get better at squatting. This is a weakness of the client. Now, of course, squatting, getting better, that might be a viable goal, but again, how are we going to measure whether or not someone has got better at squatting? Yes, their weight on the bar might increase, but does that mean that technique is proficient? Again, there is no specificity with regards to this goal, and it's certainly not something that we can measure objectively, especially when we don't know what we're referring to by getting better at squatting. A long-term goal is to get a six-pack. Again, we can see here that although that might be a goal for many people who start a training program, that's again not a smart target. Getting a six-pack in terms of how much muscle we build in the rectus abdominis, how much fat we need to lose around the midriff. Again, this is all going to be something that we can be more specific with by losing 2 kilograms of fat, for example, or gaining a kilogram of muscle on the abdominals. Something along those lines makes it a little bit more specific. Long-term goal here is to get stronger at the bench press. By how much do we want to get stronger by? By when? How are we going to achieve that? Again, this particular target is not smart, and therefore hopefully this is giving you some idea as to how we can incorporate smart targets properly, and therefore what are some of the answers we shouldn't give when we are setting goals for our client. Okay, so now that we've established what not to write, of course, we're going to provide some examples which would make the grade and fulfill all of the marks in the learner achievement portfolio. You'll notice here that the SMART targets do differ from the level 2 because there is both nutritional and fitness related goals which you need to link to your 8-week predictive program for your client. So when we talk about short goals, of course, just like level 2, these should be within a 4-week time frame, and therefore the dates that you put in must be within that 1-month period. So if you look at the example which we've given here, which is for the nutritional short-term goal, we've said to increase protein intake. Now, of course, increasing protein intake, okay, is a nutritional goal, given that protein is a macronutrient and, of course, is going to contribute to an overall health and fitness goal as well. So we're going to try to increase total protein from 1 gram per kilogram of body weight to 2.2 grams per kilogram of body weight per day. Okay, so there's extensive research relating to the increase in protein prescriptions, which can facilitate muscle protein synthesis and therefore contribute to lean body mass gains when protein prescriptions are higher. So that's the justification behind that. We've said exactly what we're going to do by increasing total protein. We've said by how much. Not only have we said what it was, but then what it's also going to. And then also we've said that we're going to do this by a particular time period, which we've said here is from the 1st of the 1st, 2021 up until the 28th of the 1st, 2021. So this particular short-term target meets all of those demands by exactly what, by how much, and by when, and is within that 4-week time frame. When it comes to the fitness goal, here we've said to increase glute thruster 8 rep max by 15 kilos from 60 kg to 75 kg. And again, we've said exactly what we want to do. So we're trying to improve the glute thruster lift, which of course is going to be fantastic for the gluteus maximus, the hamstrings, the lower back, latissimus dorsi. All of this musculature in the posterior chain is going to be worked. We've said exactly by how much, so we want to increase it by 15 kilos from 60 to 75 kg, and we're going to do this within a 4-week time frame with, again, the same period of from the 1st of the 1st, 2021 up until the 28th of the 1st, 2021. Once again, this is realistic, it's measurable, it's timed, and of course, it's specific to exactly what we want to achieve. If we move on to the medium term goal, once again, we have to set a nutritional and a fitness goal. These don't actually have to be linked, so it doesn't have to be a continuation of the short term goal which you've set, so that you can set different goals related to different nutritional and fitness factors. It is important, though, that when we come to the medium term goal, that they are between a time frame of 1 to 6 months. So first off, if you look at the example that we've given for the nutritional goal, here we've said now to reduce daily calorie intake from 3,000 calories to 2,500 calories. So once again, we've said exactly what we want to do, which is reducing daily calorie intake. And we've said even what it was before, which of course that information we would have gathered from the client interview, and then what we want to take it to. So again, just a reduction in 500 calories over an 8-week period, which is what we're going to do. That doesn't necessarily mean we're going to go from 3,000 calories to 2,500 calories in the first day. We can, of course, do that slowly and progressively over that 8-week period. This 500 calorie deficit isn't too big that it's going to cause any kind of health issues. And like you say, if it's done progressively over a period of time, then the metabolism can adapt, and therefore changes to somebody's nutritional intake can be made quite easily. We've said as well by when, by identifying that it's going to be over an 8-week period, and once again we've specified the dates and said from the 1st of the 1st, 2021 up until the 28th of the 2nd, 2021. So again, we were in that medium term time frame, and therefore we have met all of the LAP criteria. The second fitness example that we've given is to reduce 5 kilometer running time from 25 minutes to 23 minutes from the 1st of the 1st, 2021 up until the 1st of the 4th, 2021. So we've said exactly what we want to do. So this is more of a cardiovascular goal rather than a resistance training goal. And we want to try to reduce that 5K running time from 25 minutes to 23 minutes. So we're reducing it by 2 minutes over the 3-month period. And lastly, we move on to the long-term goals. Here with the long-term goals, we need to be really setting a minimum of a 6-month time frame. So anything from 6 months and beyond will be accepted in the LAP criteria. So if we first have a look at the nutritional goal, we've said here to reduce trans fat consumption from 100 grams per week to 0 grams per week from the 1st of the 1st, 2021 all the way up until the 31st of the 11th, 2021. So here we've got a much longer time period in order to achieve this goal, and because this is really changing somebody's dietary habits, it may take a long time to kind of wean them off trans fat consumption, which of course comes from processed foods, from takeaways, essentially just foods that aren't particularly good for us. If we're going to make a major change to somebody's dietary intake, then doing this within the first week, of course, is going to be unsustainable. We need to do this progressively over a longer period of time, and therefore this particular SMART target is realistic. We've also said exactly what we want to do. We've said that we want to completely cut out trans fat consumption. We've said by how much, and then we've also said by when. So all of those SMART target criteria have been met. When it comes to the fitness goal, we've said to increase deadlift 1 rep max from 100 kilos to 150 kilos from the 1st of the 1st 2021 until the 1st of the 9th 2021. So again, we've got a good period of the year there where we can make substantial changes to somebody's 1 rep max, and a 50 kilo increase within that time frame is certainly viable, is certainly achievable for an individual. Again, we've said exactly what we want to do. So we've said we want to increase deadlift 1 rep max. We've said what we want to take it from, up and to, and then we've said the time frame by which we hope to achieve that. So once again, we've met all of that criteria. Hopefully those examples have given you some good ideas of which you can put in your own SMART targets for your client. But of course, your own short, medium and long-term goals are going to be related to what your client is trying to achieve, and therefore your goals should be related to that when you're planning in your learner achievement portfolio. So once those goals have been set and you've agreed them with your client and you've made sure that they're smart, we then have to review those short, medium and long-term goals respectively. Now it's important that when we're setting any goal that we make sure that we have some kind of tracking in place to ensure that the progression is being achieved so that we don't get a shock towards the end of the program. Of course, it's important to know that the intervention that you've put forward is actually working, and therefore constant review of those goals is vital to the success of your overall training program. Now you'll see that the question is how you will review your client's short, medium and long-term goals, and of course this is going to be dependent on the goals which you've actually set on the previous pages relating to your client's SMART targets. If, for example, the goal in question was to reduce body mass, let's say we're working with a boxer, they currently weigh 67 kilos and you want them to weigh 60 kilos so that they can weigh in successfully and therefore compete in their sport, then of course a weekly review of their weight will ensure that you're on track to meeting that goal. So whether that be a short, medium or long-term goal, depending on the time frame which you set, that is going to be really important that on a weekly basis that person is weighing in to ensure the intervention you put forward is working and therefore you're on target to achieve your SMART goals. Of course, if you don't review your goals on a weekly, monthly or even bi-monthly basis, then how do we know that we're making progress? So this part of the LAP is really important and you have to be specific with the goals that you've set for your client. If, for example, it was tracking a strength-based goal, so to increase deadlift from 100 kilograms to 150 kilograms over a 9-month period, then it might be that we set reviews every 8 weeks or at the end of a mesocycle to ensure that that linear strength progression is on track and therefore the intervention of your strength training for your client is successful. Hopefully that's clear and you've gained some ideas in which to review your client's short, medium and long-term goals. Depending on the goal which you've set, of course, that will determine the type of review which needs to take place. But of course, once again, make sure that you try to fill out all of the space that the box provides and make sure that you're writing in a sentence format.